Cosmic Music by Omar Cuellar. My name is Billy, and the story I'm about to tell you began in 1988. Back then, I was a lonely man in my 30s. I had no friends, no close family to share my days with. My life was reduced to the monotony of my job and the solitude of my small apartment on the outskirts of Providence, Rhode Island. Every day was the same as the one before. I woke up early, drank tasteless coffee, went to work where no one spoke to me beyond the strictly necessary words, and returned home in complete silence. The nights passed in front of the television, without emotion or expectation. However, one night, driven by an inexplicable impulse, I decided to do something different. I had heard about a nightclub in the city center, a place that promised a unique, almost unreal experience. Although I had never been fond of nightlife, something inside me led me there. That's something we all call loneliness. When I crossed the threshold of the nightclub, I was captivated by the almost mystical atmosphere of the place. Neon lights flashed in hypnotic patterns, reflecting on the ecstatic faces of the people. The crowd danced in chaotic synchronization, as if they were all part of the same ritual. But what struck me most was the music. An anonymous DJ whose figure stood out among the shadows and flashes of light played frenetic and exquisite music. It was something I had never heard before, a blend of electronic rhythms and ethereal melodies that seemed to come from another world. In that moment, I wanted to dance. I longed to move to the rhythm of that supernatural melody, but my feet felt chained to the floor. I had never danced before and had no idea how to do it. Frustrated, I closed my eyes, and deep in my mind, I wished with all my strength to be able to move like those who were dancing frantically around me. I desired, with an intensity I had never experienced before, to know what it felt like to be free on the dance floor. When I opened my eyes, there was a man standing in front of me, tall, slender, with black hair, wearing a white dress shirt, suspenders, a red bow tie, and brown corduroy pants. His presence was magnetic and his smile enigmatic. I didn't remember seeing him come in or noticing him before, but there he was. His clothing wasn't typical for the time we lived in, and his shoes shone with an iridescent reflection. Without saying a word, that enigmatic man began to dance. His movements were perfect, almost unnatural in their fluidity and precision. That was when I became hypnotized. It was as if the music flowed through this mysterious dancer, as if they were one single entity. Every movement was precise, calculated. Yet at the same time, it seemed to spring from a pure and inexhaustible source of creativity. From that night on, I returned to the nightclub every weekend just to watch that man dance. We never spoke, but an invisible connection bound us. I would sit in the darkest corner of the place, watching in fascination as he gave himself completely to the music. Over time, I learned to dance simply by observing him. My body began to absorb the movements, to flow with the music, and to become part of the mystical atmosphere of the place. At first, my movements were clumsy, but with each night I improved, refining every step, every turn, until one day I found myself dancing much better than everyone else. 5 years passed in that cycle of endless nights of music and dance. I had finally transformed. I was no longer the shy, solitary man I had once been. The music had transformed me, or rather, my friend had transformed me. That being of grace and skill, who continued to be my only companion. During those years, the nightclub became my home. and my dance partner my only true connection to the world. It was then that the dancer broke the silence and for the first time spoke his name. My name is Nathan Essery. I looked at him in astonishment because I had never before questioned his existence or his presence. Nathan continued, in a voice that sounded like the echo of a distant whisper, "I am a cosmic entity that is drawn to lonely human beings. I feed on music, imagination, creativity, stories, and all those who, like you, seek something beyond ordinary reality." I didn't fully understand his words, but deep inside I felt they were true. However, the happiness I had found was about to crumble. One night, the DJ announced his departure. He was leaving for Europe, and with him, his mystical music. The news hit me like a direct blow to the soul. Without the music, without that frenetic rhythm that had changed me, what would become of me? And even worse, what would become of Nathan? Please, DJ, don't abandon us. Don't leave us without your creativity, I thought. The final night arrived. The nightclub was packed. Everyone was clapping, shouting, and celebrating the DJ's last session. But there, amid the general euphoria, I could only feel my chest tightening. Silent tears ran down my cheeks when, looking at the dance floor, I saw the inevitable. Nathan was beginning to fade. His figure, once solid and vibrant, became transparent and blurred. I tried to speak to my imaginary friend one last time, but my voice was lost in the blaring music. I reached out my hand, but my fingers passed through the empty air where my friend had once been. Nathan gave me one final smile, a sad but understanding smile, because he knew that without that music he could no longer exist. The last chord rang out through the nightclub. A thunder of applause filled the air, and Nathan, with one last sorrowful look, was forced to disappear, knowing that the wonderful music that had once summoned him would never again be played in that place. And then I was alone again. The silence that followed the music was deafening. I remained on the dance floor, feeling how the vibration in the air slowly dissipated, leaving an overwhelming emptiness inside me. I left the nightclub without saying a word, without looking back. I walked through the streets of Providence with the feeling of having lost much more than a friend. I had lost a part of myself, a part that only existed in the magic of that music. Now, in Nathan's absence, I don't know if I will ever again feel that special and unique connection with music. But one thing is certain, I will never stop dancing the way Nathan taught me.